Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast is Trust is an Active Engagement in the Unknown. And the reason this has been on my mind lately is I watched a social media clip with Esther Perel, who is a psychotherapist. And Esther Perel was asked, what's the most productive, best thing you can do if you're looking for a job? And she said, talk to strangers. Trust is the active engagement with the unknown. And she says, you do that when you improvise, when you're spontaneous, when you're able to build trust in navigating a new situation, like a first job. What really sparked a lot of thought in me after I heard these quotes, that if you're not willing to actively engage in the unknown, you're not going to be able to actively engage in your own life. It's very hard to make a decision when you don't trust that everything will be okay. You don't trust the path. So sometimes we become very passive. We make less decisions. We look for things that are more stable. Like, for instance, I became a tax attorney in the beginning of my career because I always say numbers don't lie. So it felt safe to me. But the problem with this theory is that we can't predict everything. And there's no such thing as certainty or a quote-unquote safe life. Yes, there are decisions that are more conservative than other decisions. Like there's a difference between walking to work and jumping out of an airplane. But even so, you can't know what's going to happen next. And you can't know the path that is in front of you. And so if you're not willing to have a level of trust or level of active engagement in your life, all the things you dream, all the things you desire, all the things you hope for, there's going to be a big space between that and actually realizing all those things in your life, manifesting all those things in your life. And that, for me, is why maybe has played such a big role in my life. Because when I didn't have trust, I needed a mechanism to get myself to that unknown playing field. I needed a mechanism that I could actively engage in my life and not be fearful and negative all the time. So some of us need a bridge. We need a bridge to trust. And maybe is that bridge. And sometimes I've called it cognitive trust, but I've been told that it doesn't matter how you get to trust. If it's from your heart, if it's from your brain, if you can get to that active engagement in the unknown in your life, life's going to change. And after a while, it won't just be from your mind. If you have enough experiences in life where you know uncertainty is your best friend and you see your life change when you're willing to lean into what you don't know, it becomes part of your heart. And there's a migration then between the heart and the mind, and you are out there and you are manifesting and you are creating. And most of all, you're not afraid to live, to actively engage in your life. Because if you know there's maybe, you know that there's a chance when you're on that interview that you're going to get it right. So you're going to lean in. You're going to say, I'm going to take my shot. I might not be the most experienced person in the world, but maybe that interview is going to go my way. And I'm going to make this business plan, and maybe I'm going to be able to find the strength and resilience to start this business. Maybe I'm going to go on this date and hope that it works out. And if it doesn't, I know I'll be okay because maybe I can trust myself. And the most fascinating thing about maybe is over time, if you have enough experiences, you create trust in your life. And again, yes, we could have trust for the people we know and certain things in our lives, but the most important thing is to trust ourselves. That's where we really build strong muscle. That's where we build strong resilience. Because if you could trust yourself, you know no matter what happens, you are going to land on your feet. And so that is what maybe did for me, because I didn't have it in me in the beginning. I was so afraid of what I didn't know. I was so afraid I was going to mess up. I was so afraid life wouldn't work out that I didn't have the trust for full expression. I didn't have the trust to fully pursue everything. I always had one foot in another place, not fully embodied in my life, not fully pursuing everything I wanted. But with maybe, what happened is that I was able to question my fears of the unknown. And when you do that, you again end up on the unlimited field. You end up in the same place where people who trust. So you don't even need to be fully in a trust state to actively engage in your life. You just need maybe. For instance, this is how it would work. I want to apply for a new job. I don't trust that I have enough experience. I don't trust that I'm going to be able to do a good job. I don't trust the company would ever want to hire me. And then as that's going, you understand why. You say, well, I feel this way because one of your parents were never supportive of you. You feel this way because you didn't always do well in school. You feel this way because you lost your last job. Whatever the reason is, you're looking at this new job and you know in your heart it would be your greatest desire to have this job. It would be the greatest manifestation of your life to land this job and fulfill your destiny, your goals, the things you want in your life. But if you don't have that trust in yourself, it's going to be really hard to actively engage in the interview, actively engage in pursuing it, actively engage to show up and say, I believe that I am right for this job and I will do wonderful for this company. But if you can engage in just some maybe, you could have the resilience without fully overcoming everything from your past. And what's so interesting too, that if you can move forward, you will create a new moment and you will create a new future, and the past will be less relevant. Because the first statement maybe could say is maybe the past is behind you. And maybe the past has no relevance in today. And maybe what happened before will never happen again. So before you even get to your future fear statements, you are able to wipe out your past because you can't know that whatever happened to you before is going to happen again. That is the beauty of uncertainty and maybe. Just that creates this space that maybe life could be different. That's when the no guarantee works in your favor. And then after that point, when you clear the past, you come to the moment, you say, what is my problem? Again, my problem is I'm afraid I won't do a good job. I'm afraid they won't hire me. And then you ask yourself, are you absolutely sure that you know the future? Are you absolutely sure that every fear you have, every lack of trust you have is real? And so again, you cannot be sure of anything. And then you start the maybe statements. They could be simple. Maybe I can do this. Maybe my life can change. And then they could get more specific. Maybe you need to study a certain area. Maybe you need to get certified. Maybe you need to call someone for help. Whatever it is, you start to give yourself other possibilities than your negativity and your lack of trust. And once that happens, you are actively engaged in the unknown. It doesn't matter if you got there because I trust myself and I trust the world and I trust this or I trust that, or you got there because you realized there were other possibilities other than your greatest fear and maybe got you there. It doesn't matter. It just matters that you get there and you're willing to actively engage in the life that is in front of you. Actively engage in your goals, actively engage in your desires, actively engage in getting a new job, finding a new love, helping someone out, whatever it might be, you are in your life. And when you are actively engaged in the unknown, you are on the unlimited field, which offers you so many more possibilities than you could have ever imagined. And remember, maybe doesn't guarantee that life's going to go the way you expect. But I could assure you that the more possibilities you give yourself, the more likely you are going to find your way. And what's even more than that, living a life and not feeling stuck. Living a life and not feeling afraid all the time. Living a life believing that you can't find your way. It is the worst feeling. It is the worst feeling to think that there's not a way forward for you. And then what happens, which I think is the biggest miracle of all, is that you're not thinking about the past and you're not afraid of the future. You land in the present. And when you land in the present, you're not resisting. You have more clarity. And if you want to talk about active engagement, it really only happens in this moment where you show up and you're like, I am here. I am open. I see an unlimited field in front of me. I see a life of possibilities. And you are just going to open up. You're going to make better decisions. You're going to flow. You're going to accept, you're going to be letting go, and you are going to be in the rhythm of life. And when you are in the rhythm of life, life will take you somewhere. And lastly, when you start to become friends with uncertainty, when you start to understand the maybe, when you embrace the unknown, your life starts to change, you start to build trust. And the best kind of trust is to trust yourself. So as you're actively engaging in life and you're seeing how you're moving forward and you're overcoming your fears and you're achieving goals or you're having new relationships, You will start to understand that I can trust that I will be okay no matter what, and know that maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you could email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe, A Year Without Men, Maybe Everything's Okay, A Parent's Guide to Less Stress and Worry, you can find them at all major bookstores and online retailers. If you'd like to buy my Maybe cards or my Maybe digital journal, they're available on Etsy and my Stan store. And most of all, if you like this podcast, I hope you subscribe and leave a comment.